Shabbat Shalom, everybody. That was pretty good. I won't make you do it again. I'll take that. So welcome, whether or not you are a regular here on a Friday night, or if this is your first time joining us, welcome to Temple Emanu-El. A quick reminder, you can find your prayer book, Mishkan Tefillah, underneath your chair. If you pull out the one that says Torah, you picked the wrong blue book. So you want the one that says Mishkan Tefillah. If you need to head out of our sanctuary at any point during the service, you can find an exit to my left, to my right, behind you, and behind us as well. Be sure, I already see some of you doing it. Take a second, take your cell phone out, make sure the alarms are off, make sure it's on silent. Just us in here. Then I would also love you to take a second to turn to somebody in an extra second, though, because I forgot one piece, which is say who I am. So I'm Rabbi Rachel, cantorial soloist Jessica Tillum. And now it would be wonderful if you introduced yourself to somebody that you did not drive here with, turn around, wish them a Shabbat Shalom, etc., and then we'll join back in. Let's take just a second. We've all had busy weeks, however they were busy, whether with travel or school or work or at the house, or you're retired and you have no idea how your week was so busy, and yet it still was. So we're going to put all that down. Perhaps put your back against the chair or feel on the floor. Flutter your eyes closed so we can leave behind that week and take some deep breaths to help us enter Shabbat. Deep breath in together. Let it out. Another deep breath. Let it out. This final breath to help us enter Shabbat. Deep breath in and let it out. And so this Shabbat, this Friday night, is International Holocaust Remembrance Day. So we have the opportunity to to commemorate Yom HaShoah, which is the Israeli date when we commemorate the Holocaust. And internationally, they picked January 27th with when they got everybody out of Auschwitz, though. So when Auschwitz was freed, this is that date, and so this is why today is International Holocaust Memorial Day. And so more about that throughout our service. And so in remembrance, I've brought for us, just symbolically, a yahrzeit candle to be able to light. And there's no blessing that goes with it. We just have it here in front of our Shabbat candles so that we can remember. But to help us bring in Shabbat, I'd like for Missy and Julie to come on up to help light our Shabbat candles. If everyone will turn to page 120, and please rise. Oh, come on over around. I guess we didn't think that through this week. So each just light one, so somebody light the far one first. Go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu
Shabbat Shalom. Beautiful. I could hear you too. They're both in our Hebrew class with Elon on Monday nights, so they've been practicing. If you would like to light, for 3 years, if you would like to light your own Shabbat candles, you can do so at the tables in front. If you're going to remain at your seat, I'll invite you to be seated. We welcome our Sabbath angels, Shalom Aleichem, page 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Borchem l'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bachuni l'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzidchem l'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
If you're still standing, you may be seated. We turn to page 138 as we welcome the opportunity to celebrate Shabbat. We've lit our Shabbat candles, we've welcomed the angels, in a few moments we'll welcome the Sabbath bride, and we think about what a true privilege it is to be able to welcome Shabbat, God willing, welcoming Shabbat in peace. L'chadodi 138.
L'chadodi likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nikabela. L'chadodi likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Hishmi Emanu-El hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shemu tiferet v'li tehila. L'chadodi likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nilcha, Ki mekor habracha, Merosh v'kidem nesucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat achila. L'chadodi likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nikabela.
We rise and face the door.
Boi v'shalom, ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'tzochela, toch emunei am segula. Boi chala,
We face forward.
L'chadodi likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nikabela. L'chadodi likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nikabela.
We're warmed up in our prayers. We turn to page 146 for our call to worship, Baruch Hu.
Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai. Le'olam va'ed. Hamevorach, Hamevorach, Le'olam va'ed.
We remain standing as the darkness has rolled in. We welcome this part of God's creation, the ability for our days to keep turning from day to night and from night back to day. Roll into dark, found in the back inside cover of your prayer book.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Boreyom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night.
Page 152. We stand tall, we stand proud, our feet firmly on the ground. We declare God's oneness, Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam va'ed.
Please be seated. Let's read together this little quote from Martin Buber at the very bottom of page 155. When people come to you for help, do not turn them off with pious words saying, "Have faith and take your troubles to God." Act instead as if there were no God, as though there were only one person in all the world who could help, only yourself. Something we try to teach our kids in the religious school here, something we as adults are still always trying to remember, which is that the prayers in here are empty if they don't lead to action, if we don't make sure that we see the person who stands before us when they need us. And Ve'ahavta is a perfect reminder to take action, to lead with our heart, and to lead with good deeds. So we'll chant together, page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך ושרתם מאוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם
me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'Elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem emet. Page 157, we pray responsively at the bottom of the page. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory.
May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt, we were delivered at Sinai. We bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let's continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Our prayer, our song, Micha Mocha, page 158.
Yada lai 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 lai. Yada lai 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 lai. Yada lai 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 lai. Yada lai 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 lai. Micha mocha bailim Adonai. Micha mocha nedar b'kodesh. Lo rak tehilot osefele, osefele. Malchutach ra'u v'necha, boker yam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam. Malchutach ra'u v'necha, boker yam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam. Zeili anu ve'yamru, Adonai imloch, le'olam le'olam va'ed. Yada lai 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 lai. Yada lai 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 lai. Yada lai 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 lai. Yada lai 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 lai. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני בישראל. Yada lai 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 lai. Yada lai 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 lai. Yada lai 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 lai. Yada lai 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 lai.
Page 161, we pray together at the bottom of the page. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. And we ask for that extra little bit of peace. I'll mention again at Misha Berach, but unfortunately, peace is not being felt in Jerusalem tonight. If you haven't seen the news, then unfortunately there's been a terror attack in Neve Yaakov. So we will have names next week, unfortunately, to share at Mourner's Kaddish for the 7 individuals, and we'll pray for the healing and strength of those families as well as those still in the hospital. And so that shelter of peace that we pray for, it goes back to that Martin Buber quote, that we need to see more of God in each other, in all people. And yet God has given us this special day, a day, though, that sometimes gets disrupted, whether by the worst of life or by just the nudnicky things of life, the things that get in our way sometimes. And Shabbat is the reminder to just pause for a little bit. I always say this, I'm preaching to the choir in here, because you already took at least that 1 hour of Shabbat, and you made it special. You have 25 you could soak up if you really wanted to. But you're here to soak up the holy vitamins for that 1 hour, and I see you. And good job, and keep doing it, and all those things. But you don't need to hear that from me. You feel it. You feel it. You feel that energy from being with us. And so we bring that energy into Shabbat. We bring that energy into this prayer of Vishamru, page 162.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם.
We turn to page 164. We rise for our Amidah, our central standing prayer, connecting us to generations past, generations yet to be.
Adonai sifatay tiftachu fi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol Atah Rab LaHoshia, Mashib HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed, Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Ve'Rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umidol Melach, Melech Memit, Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lechayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kdoshim b'chol yom yahalu chasela, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
We continue in silent prayer with the words of our liturgy or the prayers of our heart. When you have completed your prayers, please be seated. Page 675 at the top.
Anima amin, anima amin, anima amin. Bemuna shalema, baviyat hamashiach, baviyat hamashiach, amin, amin. Anima amin, anima amin, anima amin. Anima amin, anima amin, anima amin.
There's an amazing story behind those words, rather behind the melody of those words. Some of you have probably heard me do it before, mention it before, because it's one of the most moving stories in recent Jewish history, in my opinion. It's one of those stories also where at the end of it, you're going to kind of go, real? Like, is it true? It doesn't even matter. It's that good of a story. I think it's true. But the story is that there was a chazan. His name was Azriel Fastag. He was a cantor in his small town, and he, like many of the Jews, were put on the train cars. And they were on their way to Treblinka, a death camp. And while on the train car, knowing where they're going, he uses these words in that melody. And these words, I believe with perfect faith in the Messiah's coming. When you're literally in the darkest moments, that's the song that came out from his heart. And the story goes that there were two young boys on the train car, and so the chazan took his shirt, and the story says, tore it off, part of it, and he wrote down, notated somehow, this melody. And they sent the two boys up through a crack in the train car, and unfortunately one died while trying to jump, and the other was given the blessing of making it not just off that train car, but eventually to America, which is what the chazan told him to do, was to make sure that the next generation hear this melody. And the story, as I know it, is told by a man who was on that train car, who watched all of this happen, goes to Brooklyn, goes to Yom Kippur services in Brooklyn, in like a Hasidic place, and hears the melody. That the melody made it to the United States, made it from the train cars heading to Treblinka, to Brooklyn, New York, to everywhere else in the world now, because it's on YouTube, for all of us to be able to hear it. And there's nothing more haunting to me than hearing that melody, which is a lovely way for us to transition to announcements. not a lovely way. So we just hold that. We hold that story, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about story later tonight. But Julie Weiser, a member of our Board of Trustees, has a few announcements to share with all of us. You're welcome to stand at the podium or right here.
There was something to follow. Good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's wonderful to celebrate Shabbat together this evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Julie Weiser, and I am a member of the Board of Trustees. If we haven't met, I'd love to meet you after services. I'm also happy to share some wonderful volunteer opportunities here at Temple Emanu-El. Thank you so much to Tori Miller and Janet Cohen for ushering this evening. We truly appreciate your help. Now, just a sampling of a few of our upcoming events. Next Friday, February 3rd, is the Tu B'Shvat Green Shabbat. Sunday, February 5th, is Sababa Game Day. And coming back on March 17th and May 5th is Friday with Friends Dinner. Please check the weekly TE events and programming emails on Mondays for more details on these events and other upcoming events. If you're a new member or a prospective member, please introduce yourself to me, the clergy, and other congregants. We'd love to meet you. Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Julie. And Jake, could you help me be the runner? Like run around the microphone? You up for that? Jake is the president of our teen youth group, Tefty. Thank you, Jake. All right, so now is our chance to share some of the good things, though, that are going on in our life. So we would love to hear from anybody who wants to share. So it goes like this. You share your name. So Rabbi Rachel, and something that I am thankful for this week was the chance to be home and really actually be present with everybody for the whole week. It's been a little bit, so it was nice to get back. Oh, and I guess it was nice also being in DC with Jake and all the other teens. More on that later.
Good Shabbos. I'm Hannah Patel, and I started a new job after 3 years of being at home with my kids.
Mazel tov. Very exciting. Others, what's something good going on?
What?
Nobody? Nothing?
I've got something.
Okay, Jess has something.
It's a wonderful thing, but I will also be accepting your thoughts and prayers. My son started crawling this week. It's been hectic.
Wait, we just talked yesterday, and you were like, he wants to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And he's doing it?
He did it, yeah.
He did it. I love it. Awesome. Anybody top a crawling baby? It's not a competition. All right. Jake, do you want to say that you're thankful for your time in D.C.?
Hello, my name is Jake Summerfield, and last week I was in D.C. with Temple Emanu-El. We were lobbying at the U.S. Supreme Court, Senate, and it was super fun there.
Awesome, and it looks like one more too with Matthew.
My name is Matthew First, and I can now read a fourth of my Torah portion.
All right, one aliyah down, Matthew. That's awesome. So for all these things, we join together in a Shehechianu found on page 648. By the time you get there, we'll be done with the prayer.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'hegianu lazman hazeh.
In addition to sharing our joys and the good things going on, we also know that community is more than that. It's deeper than that. It's about being there for those who are in need, be it a need of healing for mind, of body, of spirit. We think of the community in Neve Yaakov outside of Jerusalem. And in our congregation, we are thinking especially of Brenda Grazier, Chaim Ben Sarah, Marvin Davis, Jerry Penn, Rick Shapiro, Mayor Ben Rachmiel Vedina, Alvin Levy, Kashka Muskogee, George Rishfeld, Harvey Apple, Ken Schiffer, Karnina Michal Bat Yitzchak Vitova, Jennifer Herman, Neil Schwartz, Rosa Zaretsky, Vincenzo Restituto, Lori Garrett, Hank Levine, Kathy Mole, Cheryl Asman, Joby Frame, and Larry Miller. If there's somebody that you are praying for the healing of this Shabbat, I invite you to say their name aloud as my eyes meet yours. Thank you. 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 We rise for our Misha Berach on page 371. If your neighbor's okay with it, see if you can wrap an arm around as we join together.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mikor HaBracha Naimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We'll remain standing for Kiddush, and anyone under the age of bar or bat mitzvah, come on up. That's Adam, Matthew, Maya, Zoe. Come on up, come on up. It can be found on page 123. Grab the Kiddush cup, Adam, the big one. Maya, come grab a little one. Zoe, come grab a little one. Is Matthew hiding? Oh, okay, that's all right. So we're on, what did I say, page 123. And then, Bill, do you want to thank you. I'll take one too. Go for it.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon inchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit. Ki hu yom techila lamikra'ei kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Ki vanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh haShabbat. Amen.
Go for it, guys. Take a sip. Yeah, go for it. Did you drink it? If you don't want to, you don't have to, but you're welcome to do so now. And then either way, come leave your cup on the table right here and follow me up to the ark. We're on page 586, and I need your guys' help to open it for Aleinu L'Shabeach. All right, Maya. Right here. Come on, Zoe.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, lateit gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, velo asamanu kamishpachot hadama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kecho hamonam, v'anachnu korim, Umishtachavim umodim Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim Hakadosh Baruch Hu V'nemar v'haya Adonai L'melech al kol haaretz Bayom hahu Yeh Adonai echad U'shemo echad.
All right, guys, help me close it. Slow, slow, slow. Nice. Perfect. Thank you. You may be seated. If anybody caught the Kesher Quick this week, happened to read the article, happened to click the video, then you might be familiar with this. That there is a famous view of Judaism known as the five-legged table. And it's a metaphor for a strong and stable Jewish identity. Educator Avram Infeld, he's the president emeritus of Hillel, like the Hillels on college campuses. He created the view from the fact that a table needs at least 3 legs to remain sturdy. And as such, someone with a strong Jewish identity must choose at least 3 of the 5 legs to form that sturdy Jewish identity. And so the way it works, our tables, they won't be uniform, but we will be unified. Now, the legs of Infeld's table, they are memory, family, covenant, Israel, and Hebrew. Don't worry, tonight we're just going to focus on one leg, memory. Infeld famously proclaims, Jews don't have history, they have memory. It's my best South African accent I could do. Jews don't have history, they have memory. He has a booming voice, and when he says it, it's supposed to shock the young adults listening. And he explains, while history is about what happened in the past, memory is about how that past drives our present and our future. Our Torah portion this week, Parshat Bo, it highlights what it means to share memory. As the Israelites prepare to depart Egypt, God reminds the adults that they must tell their children about slavery in Egypt and how God brought them out. These Israelites are the first generation storytellers, so that their children and their children's children will continue to tell the story as a part of the Jewish people's living memory. The tradition of storytelling, it has played a significant role in the life of the Jewish people from the moment we were freed from Egypt. In the shtetls of Eastern Europe, storytelling was even an elevated role in the Jewish community called a Maggid, a storyteller. And today, the storytelling continues. Here at Temple Emanu-El, after a 3-year hiatus due to COVID, we made our first journey back to Washington, D.C. for the Reform Movement's Religious Action Center's Litaken weekend. That's a title. So the Religious Action Center, shorthand RAC, has this social justice weekend there's like 6 weeks that you can go to. You go to one of the weekends, and it's called the Litaken weekend. Litaken meaning to fix or to make whole again. Really to fix. So the children of our community, our confirmation class teens, they spent the weekend learning about the reform movement stances on certain issues, grounded in our sacred text, how those issues can guide them as change makers in American policy. They spent the weekend preparing, and on Monday they shared their storage and their knowledge up on the hill. Now, before our Monday visit to the hill, our teens also had a chance to visit a very important museum of Jewish memory, the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. This visit powerfully impacted each student. I was proud of just how seriously they took the experience. It speaks to the level of commitment from our families to their Jewish identities. Our teens, they were not the ones on their phones scrolling through Instagram as they walked through the exhibits. Our teens were the ones deeply feeling and reacting to each exhibit. Our teens were the ones getting chills and goosebumps, feeling the spirits of those lost as they walked through the empty train car on the second level. These were the memories of our people. These are the memories our teens will share with the next generation. And at the end of our time at the museum, I did, as is tradition of the rabbis at Temple Emanu-El, and I gave each of our teens a pin that says, like a pin that you put on your jacket, that says Yizkor, remember. And often these pins go into the pockets, and they find their way home to be placed, hopefully, in a special spot, a spot that's special to each teen. But the next morning, the teens were talking at breakfast, and I heard them discussing that they should all plan to put their pins on their suit jackets for our elected officials to see on the Hill when we go to lobby. This was the first time I had heard something like that from our teens since I've been leading these trips. That's when I knew that they were really getting it. They really were starting to understand why we were there. And driven by personal experiences, our teens shared their stories and the stories of our people as they lobbied legislative directors at the offices of the 6th District Representative McCormick, Senator Ossoff, and Senator Warnock on the issues of gun violence prevention, mental health services for students, and Israel. In one office, the director asked our teens a follow-up question regarding support for Israel. And one of our teens responded. He said, "You may have noticed that all of us have these pins on our jackets today." And he said, "These pins mean remember. We need Israel to exist because we will remember today and always what has happened throughout the history of the Jewish people. And I find solace knowing that Israel will always be a home for me if things ever get bad again." Our children, our teens, they're listening. They are the next generation of storytellers. But they can only pass on the stories that they have a chance to hear. So we must be active participants in this tradition as well. We must heed God's call to explain to our children the stories and memories passed down to us. Our Torah portion makes it very clear. Our children will ask questions about why we do what we do. And our job is to share our memories and the memories of our people to explain why. As Avram Infeld teaches, the purpose of Jewish education, and the only purpose of Jewish education, is how we take the individual Jew, open their mind, and help that person link their personal memory to the collective memory of the Jewish people. And so, we retell the story of Passover during Seder, And we attempt to feel as though we are the ones literally coming out of Egypt during that story. It's why we stomp a glass at a Jewish wedding to remember the destruction of Jerusalem. It's why we end our services recalling the memory of those who died in recent days and seasons past. Our children, our teens, our kids, our grandkids, our nieces, our nephews, the next generation, they are listening. So what memories will you share with them? Shabbat Shalom. And so we conclude our service with memory, thinking of loved ones lost in recent days and in years past. And so on this Shabbat, we are offering condolences to the family of Ashish Sharma and to the families in a period of Shiv'ah for Carol Zelizer Stoff, and those commemorating yahrzeits for Robert Alberhaski, Nathan Backman, Bernard Birnbaum, John Deline, Max Eichhorn, Robert Fine, Michael Fishbane, Judith Fishman, Alfred Granith, Saul Kahn, Shirley Kinberg, Herman Kirschner, George Koff, Alan Leslie, Ethel Miller Littman, Zelda Marmer, Pauline Mokotov, Ada Rosenthal, Doris Rosberg, Munyo Schmid, Iris Schwartz, Abe Schwartz, Edward Schemper, Seymour Siegel, Mary Smith, Edward Stern, Meyer Weiner, Gloria Weiss, and Stuart Young. If there is a name I mispronounced or inadvertently skipped, I invite you to share that name aloud at this time. Thank you. If you are in the first 30 days mourning the loss of a loved one, I invite you to please rise so we may recognize you. If you are in the first year, Yud Bet, mourning the loss of a loved one, to please rise so we may recognize you. And if it is your custom to rise for Mourner's Kaddish, and for the 6 million who, for some, there is no one left to say Kaddish, I invite you to do so now as we join together in words of Kadisha Tome, page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon uvyomechon, uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei amaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, Shemed Kudesha Barichu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'asei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen.
Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
And just before we head to Oneg, we do a little walach to our halah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Ooh. We don't want it.